other forests that do not grow in this area, that are the same type of forest, and they occur in Paraguay as well. They are on sandy soils, and the forest is the one that provides for its own nutrition. The forest and the processes amongst the interactions between the forest and the abiotic of let's say the land, they produce the fertility to sustain all that life. Once you retrieve that, then once you burn it, basically, the soils become completely impoverished in 1 or 2 years after that. And then you have to start adding all kinds of fertilizers, and the only thing you're left with is probably the temperature and the rainfall. But still, the business speculators, they think they can make money out of everything, and they have a right to make money out of everything. So they go and clear those forests that took thousands of years in achieving their climax. Well, governments actually lately, this last decade, have been promoting logging. Yes, they have legislation that legitimizes logging and clear cutting also. And they say, well, you cannot expect people to do without the resources produced in forests. So in a sense, they are much more interested in the revenues from exploiting forests than in conserving forests, because of the values of having forests, which are not only aesthetic values, but are very important for the stability of the climate in the world, for the stability and to create the conditions for life in the planet. All the water cycle, most of the freshwater cycle, is linked to the functionality of forests. You cannot just go and plant trees and pretend that those are forests. Hence, you cannot just go and cut them and pretend that nothing will happen. You'll see, and we are seeing desertification processes all over the world, and that's mainly because the functionality of the forests have been eliminated by cutting the forest or by replacing them by tree plantations that can never be compared with a forest. The composition of a plantation is basically just one species taking huge swathes of land, and the composition of a natural forest is very different. The trees are, let's say, 1% of the whole composition. You got all kinds of different little animals creeping all over the place in the soil, the epiphytes, other plants, the shrubs, the undergrowth. That is life, and that is what's creating fertility. That's what filtering the water, that's maintaining the water so we don't have droughts or longer drought periods. So all of that is gone when you destroy a forest, and none of that is back when you just plant trees.
It's a convenient line.
Yeah, we think carbon markets are a way through which rich entities and rich countries can continue emitting carbon dioxide. So the lie is that by paying someone to conserve forests, that will make any difference in the situation of the greenhouse balance in the atmosphere. For every hectare of forest you save, you are definitely doing something positive for the environment. But for every ton of carbon you emit, you're definitely causing harm. So those things shouldn't be linked together. Forests, as I said at the beginning, should be conserved because the Climate Change Convention already obliges countries to protect forests. They refer to the forests as sinks. Okay, they can call it that way, but they should protect them. And If you just pay money on top and continue emitting, you're not really tackling the problem, which is the emissions of greenhouse gases, namely CO2, carbon dioxide. So that's the main problem. So it's a very convenient lie, because they are boasting, oh, we're going to save the forest with this, and we're going to get money for keeping our forests. But what they don't tell you is that they will continue emitting, and that the effects of those emissions are taking the whole planet to a very, very dangerous situation. We are reaching what the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change called dangerous climate situations. And we've been living in that danger for already quite a while now. If you look at any newscast, they'll tell you nearly every day of climatic catastrophes around the world, hurricanes in Central America, southern U.S., landslides in Peru due to unexpected rain, off-season rain, much stronger typhoons in the Pacific and in the Indian Ocean. All of that is nothing but the consequences of climate change. And the main reason for that climate change are the carbon dioxide emissions of industrialized nations and industrializing nations. So for that reason, already common sense told these people to negotiate a convention that says, okay, let's go out there and conserve our forests. So we don't need any more trading or any more horse trading. We should just go and fulfill the mandates of the convention.
In other words, we should save the forest and stop the emissions.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely.
I think there's never been more confusion in this modern life than ever before about what to eat. We have such an oversupply of food, but yet again so much confusion about this diet and that diet and all these fad diets going around, and all the scientific information coming out. And for me, there's only three dietary guidelines that we should adhere to, the three most important guidelines that we should apply in our everyday eating. And the first one is to eat God-made, not man-made. So food in its most original, unprocessed form is good for us. And to explain that in another way, to elaborate a little bit about that, I think also the main thing is we don't realize that food should be our medicine. So the importance of food and the role it's playing. What is this God-made opposed to man-made, and how will it affect us? I have an analogy that I explain it, but maybe to step back and just ask ourselves, why do we eat food in the first place? And I think that one of the main reasons is comfort. It's social. Every social event we eat. It's a habit. It's 1 o'clock, I must eat. But the main reason, if we think about it, is for energy. Food is there to sustain us. So we eat for energy. And if I feel low in energy, low in spirit, I crave that something. And typically somebody would eat a chocolate. Now what happens is that chocolate, the sugar in the chocolate is converted down to glucose. And that is turned in our system into energy. Now there's millions and billions of cells in our body. And in every cell, all these chemical reactions is taking place to convert sucrose to glucose to energy. It's not a chocolate coming out the other way. So it's phenomenal what this body can do. There's more than 7 trillion chemical reactions that take place in our body every second. It's phenomenal if we think we're like this huge factory, and all these, the most clever computer is our human system. Now every single one of these chemical reactions taking place need a specific enzyme to catalyze those reactions, to make the reaction happen. The enzymes, again, need specific vitamins and minerals. Otherwise, they can't do their job. Now, enzymes we inactivate at 48 centigrades. So anything that I've processed that's gone through a heat treatment won't have any live enzymes in them. Another analogy is we can look at a fire. A fire needs air. It needs the oxygen to burn. And then the glucose, that's our carbohydrate. That's the energy source. That's the firewood to build that fire. So I have a nice stacked fire. And I have enough oxygen around that fire. But what do I need to get that fire to burn? That would be a match to light and strike that fire. That is the enzymes, vitamins, and minerals to spark those reactions into reality. Now, we can also look at the carbohydrates, the proteins, the fats, but the carbohydrates as the petrol for your car. Okay, so our car needs petrol to perform, and it's an energy source, but it also needs oil. That's the enzymes, vitamins, and minerals. The micronutrients is the oil to keep that engine functioning. Now, if I eat my chocolate, the sugar is converted to glucose, and this is turned into energy, and it sparks more than 7 trillion chemical reactions per second, each needing an enzyme, vitamin, and mineral. Then we have to ask ourselves, these enzymes, vitamins, and minerals, are they in the chocolate? I'm talking about a normal chocolate bar. Would there be any live enzymes? If we think that enzymes are destroyed at 48 centigrades, there would not be any live. And there's hardly any vitamins and minerals in that slab or that bar of chocolate. Now, if it's not in the chocolate, where will my body get these nutrients to help my body to convert the sucrose to glucose to energy? Because I'm not eating an apple with the chocolate, supplying it. It will take it from other places in my system. Our skin is the largest organ, not the most active, so we won't steal from our heart or our liver, but we'll first take nutrients from the skin. And that's our first sign of aging. We start to get wrinkles. And then we'll start to take nutrients from our bones. And as we age, nutrient density, bone density decrease and osteoporosis, and we get all these bone fractures and problems. And then just where there is a fire, there's always smoke. So we have a lot of metabolic waste. So there's free radicals and a lot of waste that is generated by this processes happening in the system. And this imbalance we create on a cellular level is all the degenerative diseases we struggle with today. It's diabetes, cancer, osteoporosis, chronic fatigue. Because if I have a sick cell depleted of the essential enzymes, vitamins and minerals, and a toxic buildup, and it's not getting the air and the water and the fuel source, that cell's going to be sick. And if I have a sick cell, I have a sick organ, a sick system, and a sick body in the end of the day. So we have to look what we put into our body. Anything that you put in your mouth, you must ask yourself, am I now giving to my system, or am I actually taking away? We think of that chocolate as extra kilo on the hip. We don't see it as something that's actually depleting the system of nutrients. Now, if we think of sugar cane, it's a live plant growing there with all the enzymes, vitamins, minerals, the fiber. Everything is in that plant that's needed to convert the sugar, the sucrose, to glucose, to energy. But what do? It's that white sugar stripped away and isolated, refined and isolated and stripped away of all these important nutrients. So if we think that's the bulk of what we eat is carbohydrates, but it's this processed carbohydrates. It's also in our grains, in the hull or the husk, the outside layers of the grain, where we have the most nutritional value. And with all the processing and refining, we lose all those nutrients. It's white rice, it's white pasta, it's pizza in the morning, pizza for lunch or supper. It's white bread. It fills our tummy, it gives us some energy, but it doesn't have these important nutrients. If you have a lovely red Ferrari, and I tell most of my clients, you're a beautiful red Ferrari, you would value that car. And you'll make sure you put the best grade petrol in there, the best, but also oil. What's going to happen to that car if you don't put oil into the engine? It's going to seize sooner or later. But we do that on a daily basis to our own system. I'm going to just mention the rest of the list of factors that has a negative impact on our system. If we look at smoke, nicotine is a stimulant, so it stimulates reactions, but it's not supplying nutrients to support that stimulation. It will deplete a lot of zinc, it will increase heavy metal cadmium, and it will also deplete lots of vitamin C from the system. So it's not only tar on the lungs, but I create a lot of imbalances in my system. If we look at alcohol, in red wine, there's a high sugar content. The sugar needs to be metabolized and broken down. The alcohol needs to be metabolized. It stimulates a lot of reactions. It's put a lot of stress, the phenols, on my detoxification channels. And it needs nutrients. It will need enzymes, vitamins, and minerals to support those, which is not supplied by the alcohol, by the wine, or the beer that I drink. So I deplete nutrients from my system. And the same with caffeine. That cup of coffee that I drink in the morning to kickstart my engine gives energy, it gives that boost, but it's not supplying the nutrients to sustain and maintain. Also, the problem with alcohol and caffeine, it dehydrates the system. It has a diuretic effect, and that will even furthermore wash nutrients out of my system. And then if we look at additives, all the colorants and flavorants and preservatives that's added to food, all these synthetic chemicals, my body is so uniquely designed. If you think of 7 trillion chemical reactions that can transform a chocolate to energy. But now I put this strange, funny, synthetic molecule or chemical inside my body. Your cells don't know what to do with that. So it stores it in the fat cells, and there they build up and they accumulate. Many of these chemicals are carcinogenic. They will cause cancer in the long run. They build up in our system, and they put a lot of stress on the liver to try to break that down into detox it, taking more nutrients from our system. And something like tartrazine will bind to zinc, so it depletes more nutrients. And then if we look at medication, because many people don't relate illness to food. If we're ill, we go to the doctor and we get a drug to treat us. But medication will treat a specific symptom. If I have a headache, I will drink a pain pill. But I don't have a headache because I've got an aspirin deficiency. It will simply block a pain reaction, or it will stimulate another reaction. But it's not addressing the real cause of why I have a headache. It's most probably because I dehydrated, magnesium deficient, or toxic blood circulating through my head. And then just another factor. Last but not least is stress we're exposed to in our daily life. We don't every day run away from a lion and breathe fast and your heart beats fast, but it becomes like a chronic internal stress, just our everyday lifestyle. It's like driving that red Ferrari at high revs. So you'll burn more petrol, more oil, and more exhaust fumes. That whole acceleration of the aging process. It's important to handle stress, body, mind, and spirit. So not to only to eat good food, but emotionally and spiritually balance my life and look at a healthy life. And then eating God-made, God-given food in its most unspoiled form. That's my fruits and vegetables, supplying the enzymes, vitamins, and minerals. We're supposed to eat 5 to 9 different fruits and vegetables per day, just to supply the enzymes, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, the oil for my car, to keep my car going. Usually I limited it to fruit a day. It's easy to eat 7 bananas and fruit salad, but it's a kale, broccoli, spinach, Brussels sprouts, celery, that we don't eat on a daily basis, which is nutrient dense. So it's important to focus and realize this is the oil for my car to keep my engine going. I think today the big problem is we don't get the right nutrients into our diet. We don't eat the fruits and vegetables we suppose and the quantities we suppose. And even if we do, they're devoid of nutrients. Some of the oranges has 0% vitamin C in them because they hybridized, they're seedless, they're picked when they're grass green, the soil is depleted, and they're shipped around the world twice before they land on our plate. But we're not eating the food we suppose, they're devoid of nutrients, plus we do all these negative factors that's further depleting nutrients from our system. So we have a double negative. We're not getting the nutrients, we have these habits that's depleting more nutrients from our system, plus we bombard our body with toxins and drugs that's foreign to our system that our body can't work and can't cope with. So this will just give us that whole perspective on why it's so important to eat food in its most unspoiled form, nutrient dense. And just think of your red Ferrari. You'll put the best grade of petrol, okay, like the manufacturer of that car has intended, and oil to get the best performance out of that car. And we must respect ourselves and do the same. That's the first aspect of balanced nutrition. On the second one, I'll just focus on balance and proportions, and I think that is where the big debate lies, is what is the proportions and what should we eat? To me, it is to balance 20% of our diet. If this is our plate of food, 20% of that should be our complex carbohydrate. Complex carbohydrates is our sweet potato, butternut, our starchy veg, our whole grains, brown rice, and then 20% should be our protein. That can be animal and vegetable source of protein, our free-range eggs and pulses, our beans, and then 10% must be fats and oils. But 50% on our plate should be our salad vegetables. And every meal should be balanced like this. There's a lot of variation to this theme, but for me the realization came that this is how our body composition looked like. We are made of 60% water. 60 to 70% of our body composition is water. And this is our water phase. There's no water in protein, fats, and oils. So, and then also this is very micronutrient dense. So we need all those micronutrients to sustain, like I've explained, our system. So the bulk of our diet, this is supplying the fiber, the water, and the micronutrients. Our body composition is 20% protein. So it makes sense proportionally that that's the amount of protein we should get from our diet. And we shouldn't be more than